So Star Trek, the animated series, continued on with the Practical Joker. So you can guess what's going to happen. This was going to be a silly one. Well, probably another weak one for the cartoon series. There's interesting aspects to it, but conceptually not all that great. So basically the plot is, and I don't know if they ever really resolved this. Kirk didn't seem to think they had violated the neutral zone, but these Romulans show up and say, yeah, you did. And they end up having to escape as these, at least 3 or 4, I don't know, Romulan ships chase after them. Now, they're in keeping with the continuity of the TV show, where all of a sudden they announced that the Romulans are now using the Klingon design for their, warships, even though they had already introduced the Romulan ship with its own distinctive look and everything. I don't know what happened. My guess is they just didn't have the model anymore. At the time, they said, hey, we got the Klingon one. Yeah, let's just do that. But then I guess, for continuity purposes, it sets up that at one time there was this alliance with the Romulans and the Klingons. Wasn't the case by the time Next Generation came along. So anyway, you got that. So the Romulans give chase to them. They have to try to escape, and the only way to do this is a move that looks like might have been what inspired the Wrath of Khan. They say, hey, look, a nebula, so they go into it. But it's got some cosmic storm going on, and there's all kind of energy exploding and whatnot, and it kind of damages the ship. But they get through the other side. The Romulans veer off. They don't want to go through it. And so they escape. And they think, good. And so they got to make repairs or whatnot. But all of a sudden, silly things keep happening. They go to the cafeteria or whatever to eat something, and all their food and drink spills on them and all this sort of thing. And hey, what's this all about? And then one thing after another goes wrong, and it's like someone's playing a practical joke on us. And even to the point that Kirk storms onto the bridge and, all right, I want to know what's going on here. I got out my latest clean shirt and then found out someone wrote this on it. And he turns around, and on the back it says Kirk is a jerk. Stuff like that. And then Spock looks into the eye holes of his monitor. And of course it's, how in the world this happened, I don't know, but it has the black ink on it around his eyes and all that. Well, it turns out it's the computer. The computer was damaged by the cloud, and now it wants to play practical jokes on the crew. But it's starting to get serious, and so Bones, Sulu, and Uhura decide to take a break. So they go to the rec room, which turns out is the precursor to the holodeck. Now, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere they had wanted to do something similar to a holodeck on the Enterprise, but and never got around to it. And also that in the old show, and that the saucer section was supposed to separate as well, but that would have been they just didn't have the technological capability to do that well at the time. Stuff like that. So, but they just call it the rec room, and they go in, and there's this little panel there, and you go in and you activate it. The panel stays there in full view, but, they created this place to go relax, and so it's like a little forest, and they think, God, this is nice. And they take a walk and then fall into a hole, and they can hear the computer laughing at them. And so they're trapped inside this holodeck rec room, and eventually Kirk realizes, oh no, they're stuck in there. We got to get them out. And then the ship starts screwing with them. He tries to get Scotty to take down the computer, and the computer turns off their gravity, and then floods them with nitrous oxide, the laughing gas, so they all start laughing hysterically. Meanwhile, the Uhura and Bones and Sulu are trying to get out on their own, and it turns it into a freezing tundra, and they're nearly freezing to death. And then eventually it turns it all into a maze. And it's like, oh no, we're not going to get out of this one. Then all of a sudden the door opens up, the security guys got there, and so they just walk out. So eventually the ship turns around and heads back to the Romulans, and they're like, oh my God, we're going right back into the neutral zone. We're going to be in so much trouble. And then somehow, some way, I guess, the ship, used to use the replicator to create a giant balloon replica of the Enterprise and poots it out of the cargo bay. So now there's this ship that's, twice the size of the Enterprise seemingly coming at the Romulan ships, and they're like, oh no! And so they ignore the real ship, and eventually they shoot at the balloon, and it goes away, and they're like, hey, someone's pulling a fast one on us, and then it just all of a sudden Kirk comes up with the idea, of course, oh no, it's a computer problem, so I gotta outsmart the computer. So he acts like he's terrified of the energy cloud, and so the ship decides, oh yeah. So the ship goes back into the energy cloud. The Romulans follow them into it, but it's so dangerous, and the energy bursts and everything. So the Romulans decide to break off the chase and leave. But the Enterprise comes out the other end, and suddenly the computer's back to normal. Now, the odds that would fix it is ridiculous. They didn't come up with it. Spock didn't do it. It was bad. Handling it. I suppose I was thinking, well, it probably should have been better that some sort of entity was in the cloud and it grafted itself onto the ship and liked to play jokes on them and that sort of thing. But then that would have been kind of repetitive of things they've already done. It would have been another godlike entity, probably a childlike creature, and then its more mature entities would come in and, you've been a naughty boy, let's go home. Well, I do it, gotta. Yes, you do. And they think, oh, there we go, everything's fine. So that would have been, but it's a bit more of a believable scenario than just, a bunch of electrical discharges screwed with the computer. I mean, the computer just would have malfunctioned to the point that things just didn't work or something like that, and they would have been in serious trouble and having to repair the ship, and I guess they could have done that. But it was just geared to be silly, and it just didn't come together very well. So you can guess what happened to the Romulan ships. Yes, their computers started doing jokes on them, which is like, again, what are the odds that that's what it does? You go in one way, your computer becomes a practical joker. Then you go through it again, and it fixes it. It's just like, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it might have been better if it just shorted it out so that they could, re-upload and fix it, and set it back to its default settings. But, well, they didn't think of that. So, and I mean, it just wraps up very quickly at the end. So, yeah, it just wasn't a very good one. That's unfortunate. Anyway, you got to see the original holodeck, though. That was something.